What's up, guys? Chief here from Chief Live Gaming. Today, talking about... What are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about a concept in Warhammer 40k that is pretty fun to take advantage of, pretty fun to understand, and kind of just see happening throughout the game. Once you look for it, there's kind of like a glare going on in my glasses right there. That's okay. We're going to roll with it. Once you understand this concept, it's fun to acknowledge and just see happening in the table. And the simple concept is momentum. And what I mean by momentum is the idea of which player is winning and which player is losing and how to capitalize on that feeling. So, like when you get that feeling, you make that really good dice roll, or you just make that really good key deep strike or something like that, and you're like, yes, I'm winning. Everything is good. And that is a very powerful thing, that mindset, because on the opposite end of the table, your opponent is going, shit. Oh God, that's bad. That is really bad. What am I going to do? And that's that mindset that we want to impose onto the other end of the table, because it causes people to make poor decisions. It causes people to maybe divert from the plan that they might have had going into the game, and generally is just an advantageous thing for you. So a little bit of, I guess, psychological warfare would be like the broad spectrum term, but I don't really want to think about it like that, because we're not looking to screw with our friends' heads. It's just interesting to know what's happening and how it could be effective, how it could be a benefit. So the way that I like to kind of gain momentum reliably and early is with an army style that I like to kind of call hyper-aggressive. Hyper-aggressive. So that's like the style that I personally really like to play, that a lot of you may really enjoy. As you know, 40k is kind of a shooting gallery game at the moment, so the assault phase is kind of dead in a way. Like, assaulting in 40k is not generally great, right? Generally speaking, if you have an assault army, you're already on the back foot, the back end of things. But there are really good things about having a very aggressive army that maybe don't seem good on paper, you don't realize on paper. So we're going to talk about that. This is going to be like probably a 2 or 3 part video. I don't know, depending on how long it goes here. So if you guys are interested in this, stay tuned. I'll be uploading more videos talking about the same concept, branching off of it. So let's start at the beginning. If you think about a normal game of 40k, I say normal, that's a loose term. What do you think about? You think about 5 to 7 turns, right? Roughly 6 turns, whatever, depending on your scenario. So there's a very finite number of turns in 40k. That's the whole point of the game, is that you have a set amount of turns to get things done. Usually you think about it as like a 6-turn game. Okay? So that's where we're going to start. So if we break that down and just look at the first, say, half of the game, where a lot of the shit goes down, we're thinking about turns 1, 2, and 3, and we generally come to the table with a plan of what we want to do in those first few turns, to gain that momentum, to gain that advantage, right? That's generally what we try to do. We try to tailor our army to a certain play style, tailor our army to a plan, execute that plan, win. Or play a narrative style game, play a fluff style game, play a themed army. These are other goals. Oh, it's getting really bright. Hopefully my webcam white balances here. We'll find out. I usually record these videos at night, but we're doing it in the day this time. So, back on topic. Momentum. Hyper-aggressive to gain momentum. So our plan coming to the table for the first 3 turns is to box our opponent in their deployment zone. Very, very, very simple plan. What does this do? This does a couple things. It breaks out of the norm that we talked about bubble that in everybody's mind is a normal scenario of 40K, a normal game, which is, you think about it, if your deployment zones are 24 inches apart, you figure on turn 1, after both players have moved, there's still going to be a little bit of no man's land in between you. You know, the majority of your stuff is going to move 6 inches. Some stuff's going to move like 12 inches. Maybe stuff is going to move, you know, like flat out vehicles are going to move 18, but that's generally would be considered overextending on turn 1. We're going to combat that whole idea, and we're going to move as fast as possible turn 1 to box our opponent in. And this is a common strategy, a blitzkrieg kind of strategy. But it's really fun to talk about why it works on a lot of levels. Now, you have to go all in with this strategy. You can't send up 30% of your army, 40% of your army with this blitz strategy, because they're going to get blown off the table, right? And then the rest of your weak army is going to be back in the normal advancement strategy, totally separated. So you're going to have 2 fronts. That's not what you want. It's not what you want. If you're going to try this, go all in with it. So if you guys remember, in another video I did, I talk about this style of an army from the perspective of Khorne Demonkin or Chaos. Slightly could be used for Chaos. And the idea behind that army is a lot of bikes, a lot of beasts, a lot of what's the other, jump infantry, and maybe some cavalry, specifically blood crushers. And then you can, you know, sprinkle in some flying monsters, creatures, a helldrake, some demon prince, some demon princes, whatever. You got it. And then in the back line, you've got a few objective holders. Things like cultists. We all love cultists. Those are your back line to hold objectives, and maybe with like a Hellbrute or something like that. So that's the general style. You can replicate that with any army if you'd like to get the same effect. So what are we doing with this army? What are we doing? We're forcing momentum in our favor. We're forcing momentum. So this can be done in a couple ways. Say we're just going to talk about Dawn of War deployment. Dawn of War deployment. So you're starting 24 inches apart. You've got the long table edges. What we do, we put everything on the table turn 1. No reserves. No. Don't do it. Just trust me and try it. If it doesn't work, come back to the channel, yell at me. It's got a pretty good chance to work, but it could just fail miserably. Especially if you're fighting like a Tau or something that's just got a shooting line on the other side. So use your discretion. Look at terrain, look at the board layout, look at the objectives. Try to decide if you're going to do this strategy. Put everything on the table. What this does is gives a bunch of target saturation is the term. Target saturation. So what that means, you've got a lot of different things that are very big threats, very real threats, very soon. So if you think about things like what we've talked about, bikes, beasts, cavalry, they've all got insane movement. We're talking about a 12-inch movement. And then for bikes, an additional 12-inch turbo boost, if you choose to turbo boost. That's insane. That is really far. If we think about the scope of 40K, infantry moves 6 inches, right? 6. And then a run move, which could be another 6 potentially. Max. So that's very, very far. Your opponent can very easily underestimate that movement. So we're using that to force them out of their little bubble of what they expect and what they know. We're forcing them to change their plan that they've come to the table with. We're forcing them to make split-second decisions that they don't expect to have to make this soon in the game, and they might make mistakes. So that's the whole idea. You move forward. Again, use your discretion. Maybe don't turbo boost. Maybe do, depending on the terrain, depending on who you're facing. This is all, it's very hard to give you guys an exact order of things to do, but the gist of it is, at minimum, you're moving everything up to midfield, turn 1. Midfield, so you're at the midline of the field. And with some things, you may want to run forward a little more. So you're boxing them in their deployment. Turn 1, think about that. Think about how much pressure that puts on somebody. So think about if you're, let's say we're on the opposite side of this, and it's turn 1, we're going second. It comes to our first turn of the game, and we have things in charge range. That's not usual. Okay, we're not talking about like 1 or 2 things. We're talking about 6 targets in charge range, 5 targets in charge range. What do you do to that? What do you do? And that's the whole idea. And I think really we're going to wrap this video up. That seems like a good natural stopping point. So again, just to recap, guys, we want to force momentum in our favor very early and very quickly. That feeling that we're trying to impress on the opponent is, oh no, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. What do? I need to deal with this. There are a lot of targets and a lot of threats, very, very real threats right in front of me, very fast. Whether or not it's actually as dangerous as they think it is, it looks really scary. It looks really intense. This effect is amplified if they've held a lot of stuff in reserves because they only have 70% of their army on the table or something like that. So they're very weak very early. We're capitalizing on that. We're gaining momentum. We're using that to our advantage to complete our objectives, to secure our objectives, to get some kill points quickly, and just generally get the momentum that we're looking for. So let me know if this video is interesting to you guys. We're going to expand on this topic and talk about more specific strategy, more specific concepts and tactics to do this kind of thing. But that's the whole general outline. We've talked about conceptual stuff. Now we're going to move into actual practice instead of theory. If you guys are interested, I'll probably be recording that video within the next couple days and uploading it for you guys. So thanks a lot for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Feel free to stick around, subscribe to the channel if this is interesting to you. I do a lot of stuff regarding 40K and other gaming. I don't just do 40K here on Chief Live Gaming. I try to be a very diverse channel, all things gaming, assuming that if people are into the same stuff I am, that they're going to have something to watch on this channel. So stay tuned, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye now.